Hello everyone, hope you're keeping well. Ronan Queally here, a private client manager from Metis Ireland Financial Planning. So we're here again in Metis Ireland in our Limerick office today, in our lovely studio, and we're going to be talking with Professor Dorothy Breen. How are you today?
Very good, thanks, Ronan. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really looking forward to our discussion today. Over the past year, 18 months, doctors, GP, has been an area that I've been focusing a lot on. Kind of happened by like a mistake. It kind of snowballed into an area where I chatting to one, and it just developed and developed. And you do a job for someone, they kind of refer their friends, and that's exactly how the business has been developing. The reason I have you on today is, I suppose, our managing director, Cara Widger, he came to my desk one day knowing that I'm doing a lot with doctors and GPs, and actually had an article with your face on the page. Do you want to give me a bit of a background on what you did in the past, what you're doing now, and how that article came across my desk?
Great. Thanks, Ronan, for that introduction. Yeah, so my name is Professor Dorothy Breen, and I've worked in clinical medicine for over 30 years. I've worked as a consultant intensivist and anaesthetist in both Australia and Ireland. But I've also had strong academic research and educational background, specifically in quality and safety, quality improvement, patient safety, and leadership, which is how I came to coaching, actually. And I had coaching myself at various points along my career. And so more recently then, I also qualified as a coach. And I undertook a business startup course, actually, in Ignite in UCC, to whom I'm very grateful, which is how the newspaper article came about. Because I set up a coaching service for doctors by doctors called fordoctors.ie, because I recognised actually the need that there was for coaching medicine. If you think about other high performing industries, there was always coaching. It came from sports, as you know, but there seems to be a gap in medicine. And when I looked around, the only offerings were like corporate offerings, which don't exactly fit for the needs of medicine. And I think doctors do feel that, it's possibly only other doctors that can understand them. And I think it's good for me,
Yeah, it's very funny because, like, say, if someone gets a financial plan, even if it's a good plan or a bad plan, no one's ever going to suffer from just seeing what the reality is. I'm assuming coaching, I can't imagine anyone's ever gotten coaching and gone, that was terrible. No, it's like the benefits to it are outweigh the negatives of not getting quite info.
Absolutely. But I think it's hard to understand what it is unless you actually experience it. But I think at the moment, we're in a place in medicine where, the landscape looks a little bit bleak. And I suppose there's two elements of coaching. There's people come to coaching to be self-fulfilled, actually, and be the best version of themselves they can be. But they can also come because they feel a bit stuck. And I think there is a general feeling of stuckness in medicine in Ireland and around the world, actually. But if you look at the figures, and let's call it burnout, it's not a term that I actually like to use a lot, but, there's a lot of stuff around burnout in medicine at the moment, and consistently seems to be around 60 to 70%. So last year, the Medical Protection Society did a survey of over 500 doctors, was about 2/3, with over half saying they feel disillusioned with their career, which, is sad, really, for a group of people.
Disillusioned with their career, that means there's not self-fulfillment at the moment, is it?
Yes, I think so, that's sad, given the level of investment that people have had in their careers and, their underlying, need to want to serve people, which is, because
they would have had like best leaving cert, they would have gone to college for 6 years, then it was 5 years, and postgrad it's 4 years. But there's a lot there going on where you've invested so much in yourself and on your and actually the career that you choose. It must be tough. I think on today's webinar, then we're going to really focus on like the career well-being side of things and financial well-being side, and kind of tie them all to one if we can. I think a good maybe place to start is what brought you into coaching? How did this happen?
Well, as I said, I had coaching myself, and I've done a lot in the areas of leadership, both in the clinical setting and in the academic setting, and that's how I got to avail of coaching and saw the need for it, actually. So at various points along my career, I had it, and I really saw the gap in medicine.
You've had coaching yourself, and you kind of identified, hang on, this is ready.
Absolutely, and then putting that together with the fact that other industries have embraced it, high performing is, with the fact that there's a lot of dissatisfaction in medicine at the moment. Put those two things together, there's a there's a niche there for coaching, basically.
Absolutely. And like I said, like no one's going to come out of it. They would end, like if you need coaching, getting the coaching, it's only going to benefit you in the long term. So like what are kind of the common issues? Kind of like you mentioned burnout, we went that bit more detail, and maybe then positives as well, but what kind of common issues you have seen?
Okay. Well, I think it's just a general feeling of being unstuck and lack of agency in your life, essentially, you know. And just circling back to the dreaded burnout term, you know, there's a lot about burnout basically, but to my mind, it seems very misunderstood, and it's probably not the best word, because I suppose if you look back at the original definition of burnout by a chap called Freudenberger, I hope I pronounced his name correctly.
Hopefully he's not watching.
Exactly. Well, this is back in the 70s, so hopefully not. He defined it basically as a constellation of symptoms that occur when there's excess demands on a person's energy, resources and strength in the workplace. So it's essentially a workplace problem. But the problem with the term burnout is then it tends to feel like a personal problem. But many of these issues are actually structural and systemic and organizational. And I think we all know that deep down. But as individuals, we tend then to kind of feel a little bit overwhelmed ourselves on occasion. And coaching is about remembering how much agency you have over your own life, and getting to a place of self-awareness to see that. Sometimes we can't get there by ourselves, you know, and we all know that. We all know there are unknown unknowns about ourselves. And coaching needs a process of inquiry to get there to see that. To then, you know, help you realize whatever professional, personal goals you might have. Or, you know.
No, absolutely. So people are kind of doctors in your area, they're getting burned out. Maybe I think we all know the number of people on trolleys now.
Yes.
It's the working conditions. I can't imagine that they're fantastic all the time.
Yeah.
And kind of maybe you mentioned previously about GP not having enough time with clients potentially, or doctors kind of coming, you know, not getting the real value for it. They would have gone to college and secondary school to get those degrees, to get actualization, to do the job they want to do. And they're just not getting the ability to do that now because of even if. And that's kind of leading to the burnout, is it?
Well, yes, and actually, again, it feeds back into the problem with the term burnout, because some of it is not burnout, actually. Some of it's moral injury. And moral injury is essentially when a person fails to act or witnesses something that's against their deeply held moral beliefs. And, you know, when you work in an overpressurized system, you feel you can't live with failure. But then kind of constantly in that system. So some of burnout is actually moral injury, in fact, you know, and it's about recognizing that fact as well. And I suppose another problem with, you know, sort of labeling of burnout is this whole business around kind of, you know, how people see their work. I mean, you can see your work as either a job, a career, or a calling. You know, we tend to see them as all three of those things at various points in our lives, you know, but the calling bit is strong in medicine, and that tends to lead to a culture of self-sacrificing. And sometimes organizations can take advantage of that, actually. And it's sort of, you know, it's kind of happens surreptitiously. So that's the other problem with burnout. And what you find then is people kind of swing one way or the other, as in they over deliver on the calling aspect of it and keep giving.
They do the long hours.
Yes, exactly. Or else they get to a point where they've over-delivered and they can't do it anymore. And they say, okay, that's it. This is actually a job. It's not a calling. And I'm doing this now on a transactional basis. I'm going in, doing my job as well as I can, but nothing else. And then, you know, we find that people tend to leave their meaning and purpose they work. And that's another reason why people come to coaching.
Absolutely. And like for ourselves now, with in Men's Ireland, anyone who comes on board, we always do a full financial plan with them. One of the big things we do discuss are dreams, goals, and aspirations.
Yes.
So I have loads of examples, but one that I always kind of use is we had a lady in a few years ago, she was going to be financially independent at age 58. She kept going the way she was, but she wanted to cut down to a 3-day week. But end up she was going to have to work until she was 64. It was an extra 6 years of work. But that's what she wanted to do. She was in a position where she could take a step back. I suppose that type of situation I'm seeing where individuals, they're not even taking the moment to realize what the actual issue is or what the big goal is because they're so deep into it.
Well, that's it. You know, like we often find in medicine that everything is in the urgent and important box. So we never get to kind of get out of the trench and have a look, see, you know, what direction we're actually going. And, you know, in careers in medicine, your decisions are once you make a few decisions, you seem to be on a bit of a conveyor belt of, this specialty, that specialty, PP or whatever. So to kind of just get out and have an eagle eye view on things about really doing what you're doing, want to do, and regaining agency in your own life. It's really important. And I suppose just circling back again to kind of, coaching, we talked about sort of dissatisfaction in medicine, but there's also the aspect of people just wanting to be self-fulfilled. People who do medicine are generally high achievers, high performers. If they want to be self-fulfilled, they want to self-actualize, if we want to use that word. And coaching is going to get there.
Absolutely. And like say, I suppose the burnout is the negative side of things. How, or have you any examples maybe like when someone has come to you at a younger age, or even not even age doesn't really matter, but in a position where they're not reaching burnout and they're looking to excel? How have those kind of conversations go, or how would that work for someone who is in a situation now where they want coaching, more of a guidance?
Yeah, I suppose it's about seeing the parts of yourself that you can't see, or seeing possibilities that you can't see, that getting to places and realizing opportunities that, you didn't even realize were out there, and taking away those barriers of your own thinking, which we all have, basically. And it's quite hard to get there by yourself, So yes, so that's what it's about, looking at all the possibilities and looking outside of the box as much as you can. As I said, when you're in the trenches, you can't see beyond the trenches.
Sometimes you kind of mentioned to yourself, like came from sports stars, like all the biggest teams in the world, all have coaching. Like the best golfers in the world have golf coaches.
Yes.
Like if they're not equal, like the number one golfer in the world has a golf coach.
Yes.
It's kind of funny to think about it, where people my age or people playing in the golf course, they don't want to get coaching or they don't want to get lessons, but it's only going to benefit you in the long term, similar to individual.
That's it, and like it's not a weakness, it's a strength. And, we all want to be the best doctor we could be, or the best person we could be, or the best, financial planner, or, you want to be the best family person, friend, whatever, and can't always get that all.
No, and it must be possible to be the best dad, the best husband, the best granddad, the best employee, the best colleague, all those things, unless you're doing something to kind of take a step back and, like you said, get out of the trenches and just realize what needs to be done. Exactly. And coaching is probably an excellent opportunity aspect to go down that route.
Exactly.
Yeah, yes. And actually, with your coaching, I think you mentioned before that you have kind of 6 benefits. You might indulge us.
Yes. Okay. Well, I suppose the 6 kind of areas that people come to coaching looking for, essentially, and you kind of mentioned them. The first one there, anyway, about having specific personal or professional goals.
Okay.
Now you can find a lot that, you come with a specific goal and it moves on to another and meanders around the place and come back. And that's normal. And that really means the coaching is actually working, because you often find under a goal is another goal.
Explain that to me. Sorry. So someone comes to you, I want to be this person. But then in reality, they actually don't. They want to be here, and then they'll get to there, or what? How does that work?
Well, what you often find is that it's down to a person's meaning and values, actually, and you have to you don't have to, but it doesn't always get there, but, it can get there. And once you start to get there, other possibilities start to open up as well, actually, so yes, you can go with a specific goal, and that goal can be addressed. We often find more comes with it.
That's actually very funny, because like our whole game here, help people reach financial independence as early as possible. People often think financial independence, that's retirement. That's I'm on the beach or I'm playing golf and putting my feet up. That's okay for a while. But like so many people after like 6 months of that, they're coming back like, I need like it's like I can't be doing that the whole time. You get sick of golf, you get being on the beach. It's fun for a while, and people love holidays for that reason. It's like a 1 week to 2 week thing, and an extended holiday during summer maybe, but it's not something to continuously do. And what we actually do is we focus on financial independence. That's the day that you wake up and you go to work because you want to, or you wake up and you don't go into the office because you don't need to. And in those situations, it might be someone reaching financial independence at whatever age it is, and then saying, right, now I'm going to do charity work, or for zero money, or I'm going to go to a job that's 50 grand less or 50% less than what I was previously earning, but it's because it's what I want to do. And it's taking away that type of stress. I think that's kind of similar to what you were mentioning.
Very similar. And like that's a lot of what coaching on earth is, exactly what is it that I want to do, that I can do. And there's more in the can do than people always think.
Okay.
So that's one. And then it kind of feeds nicely into the second aspect of coaching, which is around self-fulfillment. And that's, a lot of that is realizing how much agency you have in your own situation through a process of self-awareness. It's guided and, through some various tools and all that type of thing. So that would be the second one.
And would you see people say with self-fulfillment, they might come in day one, go, this is self-fulfillment. and then years go by and weeks go by, months away, whatever it is, and they get to that position. But the goal, is it like the goal is always changing, or is self-fulfillment an actual realization that you can reach, or is it a bit of both?
Well, I suppose, for all of us, it's a journey, isn't it? And we're all changing. I know that's kind of a reused term, but it's, we're all changing all the time. And some people sometimes forget that, actually, that we start a career and there's a trajectory in it. And, 10 years later, we get there and we realize, okay, what now? But we've changed. We're a different person than we were 10 years ago. Our circumstances have changed even. Children, we don't have children. We've moved past, we live in a different country. We're not the same person we were 10 years ago. And sometimes there's a bit of a lag with career things or even personal things to catch up with the fact that we have actually changed. So it is always a process of change. And it's about having the tools to kind of keep up with that, I suppose. So that kind of feeds into like the third thing that people come sometimes is like holding around time management skills. I mean, everybody is busy these days, so that's a big thing. And that's
especially like all those conditions you spoke about a moment where you need the time, the hospital, people on beds, like most of tough time management must be one of the biggest topics that I think anyone, like I don't know anyone who wouldn't benefit from doing a little bit of time management.
Exactly.
How do you see that as doctors coming to you in relation to timing their personal lives or professional lives? Is it a mix?
Well, it's a mix really. And I always say that you can't distract the two. You might say, oh, I'm just coming for work. But, it always, because, medicine is so demanding, that it will always unpick to have that interface, your work-life balance and, your family time, your friends and all that. So, time management skills is a big thing. And about aligning the time management as well with where you want to spend your time. Because we all have limited time, energy and attention. Absolutely. And that's what we have limited. That's what we've got to spend. That's the currency we have to spend. So time management skills is bigger than just time. Really. Okay. And then leadership, I suppose, in general is the fourth thing. Because, we can't be leaders. And as doctors, we're all leaders, actually, in senior roles. By definition of being a doctor, you're a leader. We can't really be leaders unless we can lead ourselves. And that's essentially what coaching is about. And then the fifth thing is just communication skills in general, professional and personal. That's big part of leadership too. So.
Well, it's so important in everyday life, just to get around to be the right person you want to be, to get your thoughts and opinions across in a respectful manner.
Yes.
Communication is very important.
Yes.
In every industry, not just medicine, but obviously with delivering negative news or positive, you want to do it in a respectful way. But communication, again, for anyone, any industry.
Anyone, exactly. And, specifically people in leadership roles, communication is huge. But even say that they're, you can't distract one from the other. So that's that. And then the final factor then would be just becoming unstuck because we get stuck really easily. And that's mostly by things that, barriers we believe are there that may or may not be there. So limiting beliefs, that type of thing. And one of those things that people often say is, well, I can't do X, Y, Z because I don't have the money. And sometimes they may or may not have that financial freedom. And I suppose that kind of gets into what you're doing.
Those, and look here, Medicine Ireland, like I mentioned there a while ago, all of our clients do a full financial plan. So it's like when you're saying parts, it's not like you're just your work time and it's your life, it's a work-life balance. Similar to a financial plan, it's not just looking at what is today or what your current job is or what. You have to kind of get a whole holistic approach from like now to as the career goes on. We do all our financial plans up until age 100. You'd rather be looking at the money than looking for it. But it's a big thing, especially among doctors and GPs. There's good and there's bad. I think I might just talk about the kind of the slightly negative first, okay? But they can be very last minute in relation to their tax plan. So say, for example, they're waiting for the accountant to come back with a figure for a pension contribution, and they're waiting until the very, very end, then it gets done, might not even have a pension set up. So it can be a little bit rushed on occasions. Or like there can be overspending, or there might not be an emergency fund. Kind of areas. There was one lady I spoke to last year. She'd never done business, and in college they don't go through like how tax stuff. Essentially, that should be already be in a college class, similar to coaching. No one's going to be negatively impacted by being told how a pension works, rather than waiting until the last minute. Now what we've seen on the other side is fantastic. It was for like a year or so being our clients come on board. It's proactive planning. So it's identifying today, and let's just say the pension contribution, like an example, someone who in the age of 30 and 40, 30 and 39 can put in a maximum of €23,000 to their pension. But they won't know the exact figure until later in the year, which is fair enough. what they could do is set up some foreign standing order or direct debit. So every month, a little bit is coming out. So pay 500 or 1,000. So at the end, you can do your top up. It eases cash flow massively. So it makes their lives a little bit easier in relation to the lump sum they're going to need at the end, it's definitely more less. And it also means you're buying into the market 12 times. You're buying it, not 13 last occasion. So you're getting multiple opportunities rather than putting all the money in on one day where it might be a bad day. I think kind of the most important thing is like regular pension and investment rules or your protection, your cover. By having a regular review, which is our annual meeting, we have at least once a year all of our clients. Something can always call them for an additional meeting at all times. But at least once a year, you kind of want people to come in, whether it be doctors or GPs, self-employed individuals, business owners, come in and sit down and just go through everything. Because without a doubt, your spending has increased, maybe it's decreased, you bought a new car, you do stuff for the house, kids are going to college, kids are getting married, decide not to have kids, like all those type of things can happen. And they're the kind of like the good and the bad. But having a financial plan in place, very, very beginning, remember coaching, I don't think anyone's ever going to be upset by having a financial plan. You might walk away and the financial plan might not be fantastic, you might need a lot of work to do around because you're overspending. But by identifying what the actual issue is from day one, will give so many more opportunities to help you. I presume you would have seen some kind of examples of maybe people that would have kind of come your way and all of that, would you have?
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, different people bring different issues, so I suppose it's the three broad groups, of consultants, trainees and general practitioners, and while there's a good degree of overlap in what people come with, but I suppose, in consultants, we often see, like you just said, that they invested a lot of time in a specific career. And they either want to develop something else and, they've got a lot of sunk cost in what they've done. And I spend a lot of time, getting there, and then they're there and 10 years later and you think, well, is this it? That's a reasonably common thing.
The identity.
Yeah, exactly. What do I want to do now? Because people do have a great need to be fulfilled. Or they find themselves working in an organization that, they've got mission misalignment. Their mission is not aligned with the organization's mission.
Yeah.
And increasingly that's happening as organizations get busier. I think so. And then for general practitioners, as you mentioned, just so busy. And then they've got the added pressure of them, essentially. And then for trainees, what career path will I take? Will I stay in Sun? Will I go abroad? People going abroad to Australia is huge. That's a huge life decision. Will I come back if I'm in Australia? That's a massive life decision as well. I've had that decision. So they're the types of things, that people come with.
And I suppose summarize it, how does coaching actually work? If I was to give you a phone call or an email today, how does it work in practicality, logistic wise? What can I expect to get from it?
Right. Okay. So it kind of works like it can be done online or in person. Works very well on Zoom actually, or Teams or whatever. Yeah. And it's generally, a series of 1 hour sessions, 4 to 5, basically spread out over about 3 to 4 or 5 months. Okay. And it's future focused and action orientated. That's the good thing about coaching. And I think actually doctors respond well to that because they are future focused and action orientated. And the thing about the actions, it starts you to move in the direction that you want to travel, even if they're tiny actions, So every session you leave with some actions. They might be small, they might be big. And it's a process of self-inquiry through the use of tools. And, I often say a coach is a guide who's 100% on side. Mm-hmm. And you discover things, about yourself that you wouldn't have discovered in any other context, essentially. People find that it's not linear. It's not a linear process. And the benefits from coaching can happen in the session, often between the sessions, and sometimes even months after the session to finish.
Implanted type
exactly. Thing. And the cogs start to turn. So that's how it works, essentially. My website is there. You can get in touch. Generally, just have an initial chat to see,
You'd be a right fit for me.
Yes, exactly. Or somebody else, another person who works with me. Okay. And then go from there, essentially.
And you enjoy it?
Very much so. It's actually a huge privilege. I know that. Yes. It's actually a huge privilege, and people have great moments of insight during coaching. It's just a privilege to witness, actually.
Yeah, no, I feel the exact same with our jobs when you're kind of helping people with their finances, but they're opening up someone. They're telling you every single penny they have, how much they're going to be earning. and you're trying to help them and their families get to the best position possible.
Yeah.
For some people, that's reaching financial independence early so they can retire and spend more time with their families. For others, it's working even longer so they can provide for their kids. So they can give them big house bonuses, whatever it is.
Yeah.
When it's holidays, it's saving up for that holiday home that the family have always wanted. We almost feel part of it. Like where's my invitation for that? I think no, I've got enough wedding. Okay, but like it's about that. It is a privilege to build up that trust. It's a massive one. I've definitely found like GPs are. I'm sure doctors are there, but GPs one that I've been focusing on a lot recently. Great people. They're so nice, and like all you said there, they have all this application. They're really intelligent. Everything we do with Medis Ireland is evidence-based investment. They get it. They're clued in, and they're really, really great clients to have. They're good to work with. And look, if there are any GPs out there who want to kind of talk about financial planning, you can get in touch at info@medisireland.ie. And Dorothy, the best place to get you is probably through the website fordoctors.ie.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, look, that's everything from myself and Dorothy today, but it was really good.
Well,
thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.